When I was 13, my best friend told me he was possessed. I laughed, until the basement light above us flickered, dimmed, and exploded on cue. That was the night his eyes turned black, and the night everything changed. I met Alex in middle school, two misfits drawn together by our love for theater and books, isolated from the popular crowd. We shared a quiet bond, often escaping into fictional worlds to avoid the harsh realities of adolescence. One autumn afternoon, Alex came to my house. The basement, still adorned with black lights from my sister's recent Halloween party, cast an otherworldly glow over our hangout. We were sprawled on beanbags, chatting about our latest play rehearsal, when Alex's demeanor shifted. His voice dropped to a whisper, recounting tales of a dark presence that clung to him, claiming possession. I brushed it off as dramatic flair, but he insisted on proof. Pointing to a center light above, he murmured, "That light's going to dim soon." I chuckled, waiting. After a tense 30 seconds, as I opened my mouth to tease him, the light flickered, dimmed, and with a sharp crack, went out completely. I jumped, heart racing, as his eyes, normally a warm brown, seemed to swallow the light, turning an inky black. The evening grew stranger. Alex mocked my timid stage performance, a stark contrast to his usual supportive nature, and boasted about leading roles he'd never pursued. I tried to steer us back to normalcy with video games, but unease lingered. Weeks later, it was my birthday. Alex, along with my friends Sarah and Emma, joined the celebration. We decided to walk downtown via a wooded path, a shortcut lined with ancient oaks. As we strolled, Alex's chatter turned macabre, fixating on graves and decay. He declared himself the Lord of Shadows, his voice deepening into guttural growls that echoed through the trees. Sarah, Emma, and I exchanged nervous glances. Suddenly, without warning, he lunged at Sarah, hands clamping around her throat. She fought back, breaking free, and we scattered in terror, splitting up to our nearby homes. I barricaded myself in my room, parents absent, heart pounding for hours. Police arrived later, summoned by a neighbor. My sister, answering the door, relayed their report. Alex had staggered to a house, shirtless, shoeless, and battered, claiming confusion. I recounted the attack, but the police said Sarah and Emma gave conflicting tales, perhaps to protect me or themselves. They revealed Alex's history of psychiatric care and recent medication changes. He vanished from school for a year. The light's demise remains an unsolved riddle, haunting my thoughts with its unnatural precision. For years, I've kept a journal of the strange happenings in my home, a habit born from a need to make sense of the inexplicable. Looking back, the patterns all converge on one hallway, a narrow passage connecting the living room to the bedrooms, its walls lined with faded family photos that seem to watch me. I've always been empathetic, my emotions a mirror to others, and my mental health struggles, depression, anxiety, have been a constant battle. I've read that such vulnerabilities might invite spirits, though I can't confirm it. Our house, built in the 1960s, is modern by some standards, yet it carries an oppressive weight. It began subtly. Alone in the living room, I'd be struck by a fleeting scent, musty attics or an elderly woman's perfume, gone as quickly as it came. Then came the physical signs. Objects shifted positions, small trinkets appeared where they shouldn't, and I faced accusations of theft from skeptical siblings. Nighttime brought worse. A motion alarm on my door, installed for security, triggered without cause, leading to tense confrontations. I witnessed furniture rearrange itself, a chair sliding across the room, and once, a lamp launched toward me, missing by inches with no one else present. Lights flickered erratically, and unexplained bruises dotted my arms. The intensity ebbed and flowed, seemingly tied to the household's emotional climate. Anger or sorrow amplified the disturbances. One evening, my mom, venting frustrations, mentioned her dread of poltergeists. That night, a vase on the mantel shattered spontaneously. My sister, recently dabbling in witchcraft, noticed the escalation too. We researched banishing rituals, lighting candles and chanting in the hallway, but Mom caught us. She forbid all occult practices, accusing me of manipulating the family. The activity surged, doors slammed, shadows danced. In January 2023, I escaped the abuse, not just the entity. The phenomena ceased, but a lingering presence haunts my quiet moments, waiting for weakness to strike. My friends and I planned a late-night escape, a drive to unwind under the stars, rain drumming on the windows. I waited at a park, its parking lot a long, narrow strip flanked by soccer fields, the far end bordered by a dense forest. I parked under the lone streetlight, rain blurring the glass, my car a solitary beacon. They pulled up, and I hopped in, but as we drove off, a figure emerged from the rain-soaked field, walking diagonally toward my car. The angle was uncanny, a perfect diagonal across the field's expanse, like a chess bishop locked in its path. I urged my friend to wait, fearing a break-in. The figure reached my car, paused, then circled it, back, side, front, before resuming its diagonal march into the woods. The pace was steady, neither rushed nor slow, a mechanical rhythm that chilled us. It felt like the relentless entity from It Follows, tracking an unseen target. We relocated to a Walmart lot, shaken. The rain hid its form, leaving only questions. My family's history is shadowed by a demon, its origin traced to my grandmother in the 1960s. She, a devout woman, turned to dark rituals after losing her husband, inviting a malevolent force that clung to her lineage. My mother endured a childhood of abuse, married into more, her second husband attempting her life thrice. I felt this curse's weight early on. As a child, I heard an evil laugh beside me while watching birds from my basement window, the room empty, my mother upstairs. Nana's spirit visited after her death, offering comfort, a premonition I shared with Mom before the phone confirmed it. At 7, placed with Kathy after custody issues, abuse continued, paired with paranormal signs, objects appearing, alarms triggering, a book flying at me. A benign boy spirit in the barn left handprints, waving back. Returning to Mom, her behavior darkened, mirroring Kathy's. A 2022 nightmare of a demonic mirror drained my voice. I turned to paganism, using low-vibration entities against it. Fled in 2023, it lingers, threatening my sister's future daughters. I've come to suspect that an entity has latched onto me, a shadow that weaves through my life with insidious intent. It all began subtly, years ago, in the dimly lit hallway of our family home, a narrow corridor lined with creaking floorboards and peeling wallpaper that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The first sign was a scent, faint but unmistakable, drifting into my awareness like a whisper from another time. Sometimes it was the musty aroma of an abandoned attic, thick with dust and forgotten memories. Other times, a floral perfume, sweet yet tinged with decay, as if worn by a ghost who'd long since faded. These olfactory intrusions lasted mere seconds before vanishing, leaving me questioning my senses in the silence that followed. As weeks turned to months, the disturbances grew bolder. Objects began to shift, small items at first, like a pen rolling off my desk or a book tilting on its shelf, as if nudged by an unseen hand. Then came the alarms, a motion sensor on my bedroom door installed by my cautious parents, which buzzed erratically at night. I'd wake to its shrill cry, heart pounding, only to find the room empty, the air heavy with an unplaceable tension. One afternoon, a delicate vase my grandmother had given us shattered on the kitchen floor, its fragments scattering like brittle bones, though no one had been near it. Lights flickered with increasing frequency, casting jagged shadows that danced on the walls, and unexplained bruises blossomed on my arms and legs, tender to the touch yet devoid of any memory of impact. I noticed a pattern. These events intensified during emotional turmoil, arguments with my sister over chores, my mother's sharp reprimands, or my own bouts of anxiety. It was as if the entity fed on our discord, thriving in the chaos. One evening, my mom, venting over dinner about her stressful day, let slip her deepest fear, poltergeists haunting our home. That night, as if in response, a mirror in the hallway cracked with a sound like breaking ice, its reflection splintering into a mosaic of distorted faces. My sister, ever the curious one, began researching paranormal activity, and together we stumbled into the world of banishing rituals. We lit candles in the hallway, their flickering flames casting long shadows, and chanted words from an old book she'd found online, hoping to sever the entity's hold. Our efforts were short-lived. Mom discovered our secret, her face a mask of fury as she accused me of inviting trouble. She banned all such practices, declaring the house off-limits to anything she deemed witchcraft. The backlash was immediate, the air grew colder, doors slammed with force, and shadows thickened into shapes that lingered at the edges of my vision. By January 2023, the emotional toll of both the entity and the family strife became unbearable. I packed a bag and fled to a friend's place, seeking refuge. The overt disturbances ceased, but a subtle presence remains, a quiet watchfulness that creeps in during my lowest moments, late nights when exhaustion dulls my defenses or when despair threatens to overwhelm me. It waits, patient and persistent, a silent predator I can't yet name or banish. It was a night cloaked in heavy rain, the kind that turns the world into a blur of silver and shadow, when I encountered the tall walker. My friends and I had planned a late-night drive to escape the monotony of small-town life, a ritual of freedom under the vast, stormy sky. I arrived early at the park, parking my car in the center of a long, narrow lot flanked by sodden soccer fields that stretched toward a dense forest at the far end. The single streetlight above cast a weak, wavering glow, its beam fractured by the downpour. Rain drummed on the roof, a relentless rhythm that filled the silence as I waited, peering through fogged windows for my friends' headlights. They pulled up, tires hissing on the wet asphalt, and I dashed through the rain to join them. As we began to leave, a figure emerged from the misty field, its form indistinct yet towering. It moved with an unnatural precision, crossing the soccer field at a perfect diagonal, a line unbroken by the uneven terrain or pooling water. The angle was uncanny, reminiscent of a chess piece gliding across a board, its path deliberate and unerring. I tapped my friend's shoulder, urging him to stop, my mind racing with thoughts of a potential car break-in. We watched, transfixed, as the figure approached my parked car, its height accentuated by the dim light. Reaching the vehicle, it paused for a heartbeat, then began a slow circuit, tracing the back bumper, gliding along the side, rounding the front, and completing the loop with mechanical grace. Its pace never faltered, a steady stride that defied the rain's resistance, neither hurried nor leisurely but imbued with an eerie purpose. Then, as if completing a ritual, it resumed its diagonal trajectory, vanishing into the forest's dark embrace. The rain swallowed its form, leaving only the sound of water and our shallow breaths. It felt like a hunter from It Follows, tracking an unseen prey, its presence a chilling anomaly. We drove to a Walmart lot instead, the image etched into my mind, a mystery that lingers without explanation. Middle school was a labyrinth of awkwardness for me, a time when I felt like an outsider peering into a world I couldn't quite enter. That's when I met Ethan, a fellow outcast with a penchant for drama and a quiet intensity that drew me in. We bonded over our shared love of theater, spending lunch breaks rehearsing lines and swapping dog-eared novels. Our friendship was a sanctuary, a rare connection in a sea of indifference. One rainy Saturday, Ethan came over to my house, a modest two-story with a creaky basement we turned into our stage. My older brother had recently hosted a Halloween party down there, leaving behind glow-in-the-dark decorations that bathed the room in an eerie green hue. We were sprawled on a worn couch, debating our next play, when Ethan's mood shifted. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, weaving tales of a dark force that possessed him, a claim I dismissed as theatrical exaggeration. He insisted on proof, pointing to a ceiling light above us. "That one's going to fade," he said, his eyes glinting with a strange certainty. I laughed, waiting. After a tense minute, as I opened my mouth to tease him, the light flickered, dimmed, and extinguished with a sharp pop that echoed in the stillness. I jolted, staring at him as his eyes, usually a soft hazel, darkened to an unnatural black, a void that chilled me to my core. The evening unraveled further. Ethan mocked my hesitant acting, a departure from his usual encouragement, and boasted about roles he'd never auditioned for. I steered us to video games, trying to reclaim normalcy, but the unease lingered. Weeks later, it was my birthday. Ethan, along with my friends Mia and Lily, joined the celebration. We decided to walk to the local arcade via a wooded trail, its path lined with gnarled trees that whispered in the wind. As we walked, Ethan's chatter turned morbid, fixating on death and decay. He proclaimed himself the keeper of the abyss, his voice deepening into growls that reverberated through the trees. Mia, Lily, and I exchanged uneasy glances. Suddenly, he lunged at Mia, hands clamping around her neck with a ferocity that stunned us. She struck back, breaking free, and we fled, scattering in panic to our nearby homes. I barricaded myself in my room, parents out, heart racing for hours. Police arrived later, alerted by a neighbor. My brother, answering the door, relayed their report. Ethan had staggered to a house, shirtless, shoeless, and bruised, muttering incoherently. I told them everything, but they said Mia and Lily offered differing accounts, perhaps to shield me or themselves. They revealed Ethan's history of psychiatric care and recent medication adjustments. He disappeared from school for a year. The light's inexplicable fate haunts me, a puzzle that defies logic and lingers in my nightmares. I've long suspected a spirit has attached itself to me, a presence that threads through my daily life with quiet persistence. It began in the shadowy hallway of our home, a narrow passage where the air feels thick and the walls seem to lean inward. The first hint was a scent, sometimes the musty tang of an old cellar, other times a floral perfume that carried a hint of rot, appearing suddenly and vanishing just as quick, leaving me disoriented in the aftermath. Over time, the signs multiplied. Objects shifted, books slid off shelves, a clock face turned backward, a chair rocked gently though no one sat in it. A motion alarm on my door, meant to deter intruders, buzzed at odd hours, its shrill cry waking me to an empty room. One afternoon, a lamp flew across my bedroom, its cord snapping taut before it crashed against the wall, though I stood alone. Lights flickered like a heartbeat, casting erratic shadows, and bruises appeared on my skin, small, purple marks with no memory of how they came to be. The activity surged with my emotions, anger at a sibling's taunt, sadness after a fight with Mom, suggesting the spirit thrived on my turmoil. Point one evening, Mom, venting over a spilled dinner, confessed her fear of poltergeists, her voice trembling. That night, a small mirror in my room cracked with a sound like shattering glass, its reflection fracturing into distorted shapes. My sister, intrigued by the occult, joined me in researching banishing techniques. We gathered candles, their wax dripping onto the hallway floor, and chanted incantations from an ancient text she'd found, hoping to sever the bond. Our efforts were thwarted when Mom caught us, her face a storm of anger as she banned all such practices, accusing me of stirring trouble. The backlash was fierce, doors slammed with force, shadows coalesced into vague forms, and the air grew icy. In January 2023, overwhelmed by the entity and family strife, I fled to a friend's home. The overt disturbances stopped, but a faint presence lingers, a whisper in my quiet moments, waiting for my guard to drop. It was a humid summer night when the inexplicable struck in the bathroom, a small, tiled room at the end of our hallway that always felt colder than the rest of the house. My friends, Jade, Ryan, and I, had gathered for a sleepover, a rare escape from our busy lives. We were in high spirits, laughing over snacks in the living room, when nature called, and I headed to the bathroom. The light switch clicked, but instead of the usual bright glow, the room dimmed to a murky twilight, as if shrouded in a thick fog that rolled in from nowhere. The mirror reflected a hazy version of myself, edges blurred, and the air grew heavy, pressing against my chest. I called out to Jade and Ryan, my voice echoing oddly in the confined space, but no answer came. Panic crept in as I stepped back, the fog thickening until I could barely see the door. Minutes stretched into an eternity, my heart pounding as I fumbled for the handle, finding it slick with condensation. When the light finally flickered back, I stumbled into the hallway, breathless, only to find Jade and Ryan emerging from the living room, claiming they'd heard nothing and hadn't moved. They looked at me with concern, asking why I was pale, but I had no explanation. Had they vanished briefly, trapped in some temporal pocket, or was my mind playing tricks? The bathroom remained unchanged, yet the memory haunts me, a riddle wrapped in mist. My family's history is a tapestry woven with a curse, its threads stretching back to my grandmother's desperate rituals in the 1960s. She, a widow grappling with grief, turned to dark practices, summoning an entity that clung to our bloodline. My mother inherited this burden, her childhood marred by an abusive grandmother, her marriages plagued by violence, her second husband attempting her life 3 times. I felt its weight early, a shadow over my young life. As a toddler, I heard an evil laugh beside me while gazing out my basement window, the room empty, my mother upstairs with my infant brother. The sound, a guttural cackle, chilled me, though no source was visible. Later, after my grandmother's death, her spirit visited, whispering love and protection, a premonition I shared with Mom before the phone confirmed her passing. At 7, removed from Mom's custody due to her instability, I was placed with Kathy, where abuse continued alongside paranormal signs, objects appearing, a motion alarm triggering, a book flying at me. A benign boy spirit in the barn left handprints, waving back playfully. Returning to Mom as a teen, her demeanor darkened, echoing Kathy's cruelty. In 2022, a nightmare of a demonic mirror drained my voice. I abandoned Mormonism for paganism, using low-vibration entities to fight back. Fled in 2023, it waits, a specter over my sister's future. Late one night, I encountered a black shadow creature in the hallway, a memory that resurfaces with a shiver. The house was silent, my family asleep, when I rose for a glass of water. The hallway stretched before me, its familiar contours distorted by moonlight filtering through a cracked window. A shape emerged, tall, amorphous, darker than the surrounding darkness, gliding silently toward me. Its edges wavered, as if composed of smoke, and a cold draft followed, raising goosebumps on my skin. I froze, breath catching, as it paused, its form shifting as if aware of my gaze, heart pounding. I backed away, the creature mirroring my movement before dissolving into the wall. The next morning, I found a cold spot where it had stood, the air thick with an unplaceable dread. It appeared sporadically after, always silent, always watching, its presence a terror that lingers in my mind's quiet corners. Reflecting on these events, I've turned to writing, seeking clarity amid the chaos. Each tale, friends, family, strangers, hints at a larger mystery. I've shared them online, inviting others to recount their own, hoping for patterns or folklore connections. The responses flood in, a mosaic of shadows and spirits, yet no answer emerges, leaving me to ponder the unseen.